Okay, I really need to clarify my stance on Black Myth Wukong because I think a lot of people are being a little bit too overly zealous in talking about like my take on it because I do think, objectively speaking, Black Myth Wukong is better than what the West is doing that right now with like their DEI woke like thing. Like Black I applaud game science for stepping up and refusing to bow to like the consultation firms, right? Because Black Myth Wukong has become successful, it has essentially exposed game journos as being incapable of bullying developers into doing what they want, right? This is, I think, going to be the beginning of the end of the woke agenda. It has been demonstrated that they have absolutely no power to stop their core audience from playing games. This is it's been going in this direction for a long time, but I do think this is a big major milestone in that direction. However, that doesn't necessarily mean I think Black Myth Wukong is like a particularly good game or one worth getting excited about, but we do have to like applaud the developers for sticking it to the people that led to Gamergate to come about, right? Like again, this is a good thing. But the really interesting thing about Black Myth Wukong, and something that I do think really needs to be studied, like academically, is the weird what this means, like when it comes to the gaming sphere, is that we legit, because of the CCP like shilling their project, we legit have a situation in which paid shills and anti-shills are like going at it all the time, right? Because the game itself isn't that popular, right? It's not that big of a deal, but like people are legit clashing over it for ideological reasons. You know, China wants to sell their product, but the anti-shills want to like control the gaming industry. They want to do everything they can to retain their the woke agenda and keep pushing it forward and keep progressing to our communist utopia, right? In a weird way, like the communists are like just in this weird conflict with each other, you know, forever proving that communism would never work. But real talk, this is really interesting to see because we have this major culture clash between like the gaming journal, Western gaming journalism establishment and the CCP, and it's leading to a situation in which everyone is better off for it because the game journals are losing their influence. You know, woke culture is being driven out of gaming. You know, the talent is leaving and forming their own studios. Investors are pushing back. You know, creators are becoming more and more open about how limiting this kind of thing is. It's not just about like preserving the Japanese like purity or something. Like now, these days, we have Westerners coming out and talking about how bad it's gotten, right? It is the beginning of a cultural shift. And of course, like this cultural shift has been like going about for a long time since Gamergate started, I would say, even earlier, I would say, because I've had contempt for feminism ever since like you know, the Twilight days. But like when you see like what these people are doing, like it can't be more obvious that their strategies, their techniques, what they're trying to do, it's never ever going to work, right? You know, Dragon Quest 3 is a really good example of that. Like, oh, you have type A and type B for gender options. Like everybody universally agrees that like, you know, those are male and female options. Like the attempt at subverting gender has completely failed. Like it's not going to work. You know, Nintendo has been trying to force they them pronouns into their localizations. It's being rejected, right? People are learning that you're supposed to default to masculine pronouns because those are supposed to be the double as gender neutral. The they them thing has no reason to exist once you know that, once you understand that, right? Again, everything they've been doing over the past 60 years, like it really does feel as if like once the boomers die, the entire thing is going to collapse because the millennials are still going to be like huge believers of the cause, but they are going to be a minority. You know, Gen X doesn't like them. Z doesn't like them. Like, again, we're already seeing pushback from younger generations about how this behavior is ruining culture. right, is ruining our society. And that it is going to simply escalate from here. Like, I don't think things are getting worse anymore. Like, I have already noticed like a big major shift in the way that like kids act now versus how they acted when I was a kid, right? Like they are more well adjusted. They do have like a better understanding of like the world and morality and stuff like that. They are learning not to take what their teachers say seriously, right? They do have like involved parents who are involved with them all the time and stuff like that. They have extended family who care about them and stuff like that. Like, uh, it's over is what it feels like. Is that like everything that the woke left have tried to accomplish since 2008 has completely collapsed upon itself, right? They took control of the entire gaming industry, desperate to try and use entertainment to force their values onto the public. They took over Disney, they took over like every Hollywood studio, they took over like the publishing industry, they took over like Western animation cartoons, like they did everything. And all anybody did was just stop consuming those products. Like nobody cares about entertainment that they don't enjoy. And that has been a very big blow against them. Like they have legit made Star Wars, which was one point like the biggest IP on the planet, completely irrelevant because they couldn't stop producing mediocre content. People can keep bleeding all they want about like, but Rogue One was good, but like the reality is, as a whole, Disney-owned Star Wars has become a complete joke, and nobody wants to engage with it, right? If people want to watch Star Wars, they'll watch the original trilogy, right? Again, like it's going to be impossible for these legacy brands to keep themselves relevant when when this older stuff is still wildly available and better, right? When people watch the older stuff and then they like watch the newer stuff, they realize that like the older stuff is better, and that leads them down this path of like wondering why. And again, like it's really interesting seeing what younger generations are doing, because I keep talking about like how they seem to be like more well adjusted. Like the thing I've noticed is that like it's becoming more common to play older Nintendo games instead of like the stuff that they're putting out now, right? The stuff that like is guaranteed not to be woke, and like the stuff that like is legit timeless and will be enjoyed forever. Mario 64, it's been noted just how many of its like hardcore fan base, like the Zoomers who speedrun it, right, or do challenge runs, like those guys are younger. Those guys were not like born when that game first came out, right? Those guys are legit playing a game that's older than them. And I did the same thing growing up, but like to me it feels like it's a lot more common, right? People don't necessarily buy into the hot new thing anymore because they don't need it, they don't want it, they don't want to see like the propaganda, and we are beginning to reject it. And I do think that like before the before our lives are over, like yeah, people are going the problems with feminism are going to become more well known. The problems with the LGBT community are going to be more well known. This stuff is going to be dealt with in due time, because the long and short of it is their ideas don't work. And I think this Black Myth Wukong thing, right? Their attempts at like destroying this video game and stopping it from finding an audience, like I do think this is simply an example of what's going to happen going forward, is that good material is still going to be put out in the gaming industry. People are still going to support it, and the industry is never ever ever going to have absolute control of everything that gets put out and what people like. If they put out a bunch of crap content, all anybody is going to do is just look for better material elsewhere.